Welcome. This is a demonstration of SecureScope, a 3D visualization tool for visualizing information security data that is stored in a relational database. We're looking at an association ring scene. SecureScope provides a 3D rotatable view that allows the user to study the scene from multiple perspectives. SecureScope's 3D views are called scenes. The content of a scene is based on the database schema and is highly configurable. In this scene, we see host machines placed on a grid according to the location they are in and the organization they belong to. The hosts are represented by boxes according to the operating system they run and sized according to their criticality. Light blue boxes represent hosts running Windows NT, whereas pink boxes represent hosts running Windows 95. Criticality is a measure of how important the host is to the organization. Large boxes are considered to be more important to the organization than small boxes. Blinking and motion may also be used to display two additional attributes of each host. Hovering over a box displays a tooltip containing the host's DNS name. Any property in the database related to a host may be represented as spheres organized in a ring that floats above the grid. In this scene, we see categories of events represented by spheres. The association between a host on the grid and a category of event is represented by a line that connects to a box. Here we see that every host has one or more vulnerabilities. Here we see that suspicious activity has not been detected on every host. In fact, suspicious activity has occurred on hosts of various criticality running various operating systems. Attacks have been isolated to the New York and Washington areas. Here we see that mail.avi.com, a critical host, has been targeted for attack. Let's build a new scene and study the classes of events that have occurred on this host. We have reconfigured our ring so that it displays event class. Let's isolate our hosts and show only mail.avi.com. Here we see that mail.avi.com has experienced one or more events of class unauthorized probe, one or more events of class unusual password activity, one or more illegal FTPs, and one or more events of class denial of service. Let's look at this information with respect to time. We're now looking at the frequency wall scene. In this scene, events have been plotted on a wall. The wall shows the distribution of events by the day they occurred and by their event class. Bars are sized on the wall to indicate the frequency of the events. Hovering over the bar reveals a tooltip that contains the number of events the bar represents. By looking at the associations between the event bars and mail.avi.com, we can study the sequence of events that took place. On Sunday, there was an event of class unauthorized probe. On Monday, this was followed by an unusual password activity. On Tuesday, no events occurred on mail.avi.com. On Wednesday, an event of class network access was detected. On Thursday, one or more illegal FTPs took place. And on Friday, one or more events of class denial of service took place. SecureScope does not always attempt to represent each host or event as a box on a grid. In fact, sometimes there are too many events to display. When this happens, SecureScope begins to cluster the events together, grouping events with like properties. Visual attributes such as color, motion, and blink are used in a way similar to the non-clustered scenes. We're looking at a scene that contains clustered events on a grid. Clustered events are represented by a pyramid-like object. Hovering over the cluster reveals a tooltip that contains the number of events the cluster represents. To learn more detail, one can drill down into the cluster and build a new scene that contains only events that were represented by the cluster. This subsequent scene may contain clusters if there are still too many events to display, or it may contain individual boxes that represent events. In our case, the cluster represented only 72 events, which are now represented by boxes on the grid sorted by event severity and the criticality of the host upon which they occurred.